morning, peeps. Welcome back to the vlog. I have my two old roomies and best friends, Dana and Erin, here, and we are going to talk about dating as a Christian. So here we are.
Scary stuff.
As most of you might know, I am a Christian and so are the ladies, and we just wanted to hop on here and chat a little bit about what that looks like when you're dating through a Christian lens, because it makes a huge difference and it is a game changer when you date based on Christ rather than based on yourself, because no one knows what they're doing. We're going to jump into the 4 C's that we incorporate in dating, and they're all interconnected and they have a lot to do with one another. So I'll let you guys kick it off.
Well, first and foremost,
the number one thing that you have to focus on is balancing your relationship with Christ before you walk into another relationship.
Yeah.
Because if you're not secure in that one, it's going to throw everything else off in the relationship that you're pursuing.
I think most importantly, because the world is such a difficult place, if your foundation is not built on something sturdy, on a rock, if it's built on sand, it's just going to sink. And when anything hard comes across, which hard things are going to come across, then if it's not built on Christ and you don't have that foundation to go back on, knowing whose you are and how you're built, and you're built in the image of God, then
and your purpose in life.
Yeah.
You can always just go back to that, and you can go back to
not relying on a person.
Yes.
I think that when you rely on another human, that's like the ultimate destruction, and that's like from the get-go you already know like this is not going to work out. They can't carry you on their shoulders.
And it puts too much pressure on the other person too.
Yeah.
Like, they're not God, and they're never going to be God.
Yeah.
And so if you can take that desperation out when you go through those heartbreaks, then it's not going to be as hard either, because you got God on your side. And it takes the idolizing out too.
I think it was Pastor Michael Todd in his relationship series Gold, but the first thing he started with was Adam. And Adam was alone in the garden first, and before Eve came along, the woman or anything, I don't remember all the points, but he had a purpose. He was supposed to tend to the garden. He had all these things that he was supposed to do before there was ever even a relationship involved, and another woman and another human. And basically the biggest thing was already having the purpose, and he had a relationship with Christ, and Christ put him on earth, and he gave him something to do and where to do it, and he had all these things set out before a girl or a guy even came along. So making sure that you're aligned in Christ and built on Christ, so regardless of if a person is there or not and you're in a relationship, you can stay even keel and steady.
Yeah, it's a real deal breaker, but not in a negative sense. Like, it just helps you make a decision.
Yeah, it saves time.
And heartache.
And it helps you to just, I mean, you have your list of whatever you want in someone.
Oh, and we're talking about, when you initially screen a person, like, you're screening them and you're finding out, do you have the same religious beliefs? So that's, like, what we're talking about.
And obviously you have to have that traction. And you have to, like, have that chemistry. But before you waste your time, might as well just you can get into the superficial stuff, but it's why are we here? What's our purpose? And how eventually we've been talking about is this isn't a decision you just make, like you go to the grocery store. It's your life. It's not just you can't really mess around with it. You date to either break up or get married.
Yeah, like, it's not high school anymore. You're not dating because you're like, he walks me to my locker, or he carries my books. It's like, no, he's carrying my burdens on his shoulder, and, like, I'm carrying his. And I think that not having a relationship based on the core fundamentals of who make you as a person, then they don't know you. Like, they don't know your heart if they, like, aren't set in it. And, like, I think also dating, and I just mentioned this to them, but I had a friend who was dating someone initially, and from the get-go, she made it a point that if we're not aligned on religion, I can't pursue this any further because that's a deal breaker for me. And it saved her a lot of time. It saved her a potential heartbreak if they were to get engaged and it doesn't align. And she was like, it's nothing negative. We're still friends. We still hang out. But, like,
still love the person.
Yeah, like, but I can't be with you and you can't be my partner in life.
Dating has a purpose. For us, the purpose is to get married, and that is the end goal, the destination. And some people who want to just date to date, that's fine. But especially in a Christian dating relationship, a Christian marriage, the purpose is marriage, and there is a destination to get to.
And we were talking to, like, I think a lot of people glorify marriage. It's like the big weddings now, all of the videos, like we all idolize that, and it's not. We get married to be Christ's reflection and to have a partner to. It's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Backtracking a little bit, we talked about when things don't work out. I feel like people always talk about, let's date as a Christian, but they never think, what does breaking up as a Christian look like? It still sucks, but ultimately, what Erin said earlier was, did I bless this person even though we're broken up? Like, no hostility, no hard feelings. Like, maybe it was like a good breakup or a bad breakup. Regardless, what did you contribute in their life? Like, did you ruin their life? Like, hopefully not. Like, as a Christian, you have a different lens of breaking up.
Did you bear good fruit in some way that hopefully led them closer to Christ? And I think that people get bad reps for dating a lot, but when you have those boundaries established and you are in Christ, it's okay to date a lot because you're not messing with their heart. And you're not taking from them. You're not being a drain. You're being a fountain.
There's more peace when things don't work out.
Yeah, God is sovereign.
Yeah, I've always... Ever since last year, the last 2 years, even with outside of relationships, my grandma passing, just being able to have a peace that everything is going to be okay. Because when you're mature enough to make those decisions and see that I don't think our relationship would be good in a marriage, then you have the peace of knowing that it's not just, oh, well, I really love him, but I don't know. And then there's a state of confusion when there's no Christ involved.
And it's like, okay, we live in an instant gratification world. And so we all just want to value what we do right now, our feelings. Our friend goes, go with your knowers, not your feelers. And so that's why it feels so hard in the moment. It's like, you have to go what you're going to value most at the end of the day. At the when you're old and wrinkly, who do you want by your side? You don't want to be lonely with someone in that bed.
Or the 4 C's that we're going to touch upon and you're going to hear us bounce back and forth between is character. So someone's character, clarity, the clarity of your intentions in the relationships, what you guys expect out of the relationship, where you guys expect to go in the relationship, what you're working towards, whether that's like someone that just wants to date and they're just getting into the dating pool, or someone who has dated and they're ready to get married. Those are 2 very different goals. And if that's not clear, it's going to be really hard to overcome. And then having chemistry, because chemistry is important. Like, you're going to want to like the person more than like John Doe on the street. Like, you don't want to...
You want to kiss him.
You don't want to be like... Oh gosh, nothing's worse than when you see someone on TV and you know, like, it's like a cringe moment and they smooch and you're like, oh,
do they like each other?
Yeah, you're like, you don't even like him. Something else that we talked about, that we kind of talked about, is check yourself when you're going into a relationship and what your intentions are and what you reflect. Because I think ultimately when you get very deep into the dating pool, and this is how I felt, I was like, I want this in a guy. And then when I didn't find that, I never looked at myself and said, well, am I doing the things that I want?
Do I represent that?
Yeah, do I represent what I want to be for someone else? And I wasn't. And then I was like, maybe I should get my bleep together and not be just crazed around saying there's no guys when I'm not even exhibiting the values myself.
We get all frustrated. We're like, there's no good men in the world. But then you ask, what am I doing? Where am I putting myself?
Volunteers and serves. Well, are you volunteering and serving?
You're not going to meet them if you're sitting on the couch crying. So you have to put yourself out there and make sure that your intentions are right too. Like, get your heart in check before you ruin someone else's.
And I think, as not fun as it is, we talked about kind of you're evaluating someone when you're dating someone, and it sounds like you're being a stickler and you're trying to. My mom has this rule: you gotta date someone for 4 seasons. You gotta make it
shiny season.
Yeah, you gotta make it through someone with a year, because infatuation is a chemical thing that goes on that it really only lasts 12 to 18 months. That honeymoon phase when your eyes are glazed over, you cannot think clearly as much as you think you can.
Oh my gosh.
A great verse I like is Proverbs 30:31. It's charm is deceptive, beauty is vanity, but like
it's fleeting.
Fleeting. But a fearless woman, a woman who fears the Lord, is precious.
And just evaluating them throughout those 4 seasons or more, but at least 4 seasons. How do they act outside
to people,
when you go to a restaurant?
Just how are they treating just the waiter?
How do they treat your friends and your family?
How do they treat your family?
So if you've been dating someone for hopefully 4 seasons or longer, you've seen them in a stressed out situation. You've seen them at a family death. at a funeral, when they're at their saddest.
Hopefully not.
When work is not going well. When
at their happiest moments, when they get a promotion.
When you look ugly.
Yeah. You see their reactions. And I think that it tells so much about a person because in the world, this is so cliche, but like, the only thing you can control is how you react. You can't control the tides that move you through the world, but you can control how you swim and how fast you swim. And I think that when you really watch with intention and not like, oh yeah, that's fine that he's doing that. He might clean his act up later. Yeah. But like if he's
making excuses.
Yeah. And if he's talking smack about your friends, that's a red flag. Yeah. Or if
your friends are the OGs.
Yeah. And if he's like not being nice to your family and he's like, I want to leave, I don't value my time here, or I don't respect that you want to be here for family dinner. I want to go do my own thing and play Xbox. That's not okay. No. So like, and it's okay for you
because you're gonna mesh families. Yeah. I mean, look at you and Luke. Like you now have a second family.
Yeah. And like Luke and I, in case you're new here, I'm engaged to my now fiance.
The ring. Show it.
I'm engaged to my now fiance Luke, and we have polar opposite families. My family is very outgoing, very all over the place, and just very spontaneous. And his family is a little bit more structured, a little more like based in the word, and they are just very different, but they both bring so much good to the table. And at first when I started dating him, I was ashamed of my family. I was like, oh my gosh, like his parents are so put together, and they're so structured, and they're so like, I don't know, there was so much like comparison that I was doing, but then Luke was like, your parents bring out the side of me that I need to brought out. Like I need this spontaneity. Like
fun.
So it's really interesting to like when you dive into the depth of dating and you're dating one another's families to see like Luke never felt ashamed of my family. He was never like, I don't like hanging out with them. I don't like this. He's like, this is good. Don't freak out. Like everything's I'm not freaking out. You're freaking out. Like, I would self-destruct. Something else that we said is, it's better to be single than married and alone.
It's better to be single and alone than married and alone.
Yeah, and I think that if you ever feel alone in a relationship and, like, you can't be vulnerable, because vulnerability is so important.
It's a must. Yeah.
It's a must. Like,
there's no relationship
why would you be in a relationship if you can't be vulnerable?
But so many people do it.
Because it's really easy to, like, be like, I don't know if I'm going to find anyone else or
to settle.
Yeah, to settle.
Don't settle, ladies.
Yeah, but also recognize that not settling does not mean find somebody that's perfect, because you're not.
There's no such thing.
Yeah.
You'll be searching forever.
Yeah. What we mean by don't settle is if in your heart you know things are wrong in your relationship and you guys are not exhibiting the same values, he is not treating you well or she is not treating you well. If things are wrong and it's not just you being oversensitive and over-judgmental, then that's when you should not settle. Yeah. But, for example, if your boyfriend forgets to put the dishes away,
you can live with
don't go psychotic and be like, I'm not settling, I'm over this relationship. Like, just have an open conversation and see how they react to. It's really important to me that you put the dishes away. And if they say, okay, I'll put them away, no big deal. Like, that's what you should be able to do. But if you can't even talk to them about the small things, like, you can't be open and vulnerable.
Yeah, and from like personal, I mean, we've both been, since Corona, been diving into scripture, and it's helped us discern a lot. And by praying about these things and having the word to be your foundation, it makes decisions like this so much easier because you know what's right and you'll have these feelings in you of discernment. Yeah. And so, I mean, I think we idolize relationships and it's the Instagram highlight reel because it's all about looks. Like, I look good with this person. Yeah. Our relationship is perfect in this sense, but it's more of a feeling. Yeah. Like, you and Luke know the feeling. And I wrote down the other day, it's like, you have an overwhelming peace. You're not stressed because the clarity's there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're both clear. You feel understood. You feel cared for. You feel like, you just feel known. And you're pushing each other, not we're saying we're running side by side, not pulling.
Talk about warrior.
Yeah, so if you guys are both running towards Christ is the goal, you guys will end up meeting towards each other. But if one of you is running towards Christ and the other one isn't, or if you're running towards each other, the biggest thing that a lot of people do now is idolize their partner and they kind of put them on this pedestal. They make them a god. And whenever you make something else in your life a god other than God,
it's never fulfilling.
No one's perfect. So if you put a human being on your pedestal, they're never going to be able. They're never going to be able to live up to your standard. Yeah. They're going to feel pressure to live up to the standard you're putting them on.
It causes anxiety.
In the same way, if a guy puts you on a pedestal, you feel like oh shoot,
I can't breathe.
They think so highly of me, I can't mess up.
Yeah.
They think I'm amazing.
Or I'm having a tough week at work and he is like, she works so hard, she's perfect. Yeah. What if you just want to talk about, I'm having a really poopy week. Can you help me get through this and be vulnerable and like
be real?
Yeah, and you don't want to be put on this pedestal either. Like you don't want to be
a teammate.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Like we're all gonna struggle, but who's gonna be that teammate that's encouraging you? What are they doing in their private time?
Yeah,
like
what's their free time?
Because we talk about missionary dating. That's what we were talking about, and it doesn't work. Yeah, and even dating.
So describe what that is.
If you don't know what missionary dating is, basically it's dating someone that either is not a follower of Christ or
is teeter-tottering.
They say they're Christian, or we call Christers. Where you go to Christmas and Easter's when you go to church. The Christers.
No, it's Christers. Merry Christer.
Yeah.
Merry Christer.
Yeah. But missionary dating is maybe dating someone that's not a Christian or someone that
Christers.
is just a Christian on paper. Like they call themselves a Christian but not practicing. And
there's nothing wrong. I don't want that to come across as bad.
No.
It's like we can still love them, but if you're that rooted in your faith, you don't want to take a step back. Mm-hmm. You want to keep moving forward.
Yeah, because and also it's not your job. It's, okay, this is really hard, and I feel like this is controversial, but in my opinion, it is not your job to make another person believe something they don't want to believe on their own.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you will be dragging someone, and someone will be dragged.
And they could end up resenting you and Christ if it doesn't work out.
If you start bringing them to church, and then you have a great relationship, and it becomes rooted in Christ, let's say you break up, and then
they only went to church for you.
And now they associate church and religion and Christianity with you, and then they might have a resentment towards God.
Yeah. And it's like iron sharpens iron. Yeah. That's brought up in the Bible. And like, are they leading themselves well? Mm-hmm. Are they bearing that fruit?
Yeah. And it's not to say, like, let's say you meet someone, for example, when Luke and I met, Luke's knowledge of the Bible and scripture is like here, and mine is here. But I was the one that brought it up first. Like, I think
I wanted that relationship.
Like, I was like, I don't know what's going on in the Bible. When I met him, I had never even read through a whole book. Yeah. I was like, I have no idea what's going on, but I know this is important.
Yeah.
So if you aren't on board with this, like, we need to talk about it now. And he's like, you know what? I was pursuing faith just as strongly as he was. So that's not to say,
it looked different.
Yeah, but that's not to say if someone doesn't know as much as you, as long as if they have that pursuit and that feeling, you know, you see it. Like,
because we were saying too, it's not just religion; it's a relationship. And I think a lot of people are like, read the Bible, read devotion. It's that you want to. You want to get to know Christ. You want to get to in those depth conversations.
There's a big difference between religion, what she was saying, and a relationship with Christ, and like wanting to pursue him and pursue the word.
That's all he asked for us.
And earlier when we were talking about the little things, if he doesn't put the dishes away, those things you can get over, but the things that you can't get over are the big things. And knowing those big deal breakers for you before you go into the relationship, knowing what you're expecting.
Do you want to have kids?
Yeah.
Do you want to live together before you get married?
Because I mean, you'll talk about it a little bit, I think, too. But now that they are engaged, what it's like being in a dating relationship versus an engaged relationship, and taking steps, and they're going through. You can talk about the counseling and stuff too, but if a lot of things are coming up that you didn't even talk about, but you've already had so many deep conversations. You're like, how could there be more? But there's more.
There's more. There's always more. Mm-hmm. When you get married, that doesn't mean you automatically know everything about a person. Like, for example, I just learned that Luke really loved like a certain ice cream flavor, and I was like, I had no idea. Like, how did I not know this?
It was like
he liked I knew he really liked strawberry, but he really likes the salted caramel toffee Halo Top, and I didn't know that.
So what a guy!
Yeah, and he loves it. But it's definitely, I think we'll go into like the different kinds of relationships later. Yeah. But another thing we talk about is the yoke.
Mm-hmm. Equally yoked.
Yeah.
So I never knew what that meant. I was like, a hard boiled
like that yoke. Not an egg
yolk.
Or Mr. Yoke. You know those yokes like back in the olden times where they would put the two cattle together, and if one was bigger, like when they were plowing the fields, it'd be uneven and they couldn't plow the fields good. Or they
have to be even in a sense where they have to get along. Their personalities got to get along. Yeah. And then we were talking to, like, we've dated guys who are Christians, but even different denominations. And you can even have Christians that don't agree on the same things. Yeah.
And you're on different levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not to say, just date someone because they're a Christian and then forget about everything else as long as you're both Christians. That's not it either. Yeah. Again, like the chemistry and the personality and their families. You have to be clear about what level of the religion you're on. Like, for example, Luke and I were on the same level of we want to find a church, a home church. That's like a main goal for us when we get married. We want, and maybe sooner, like we have one in mind, but we want to wait till we're living together to tithe and such. So one of the main things that I think what you're saying is you want to be on the same page and the same intentions. Yes. Because some people, they're more than just a Christers. What is it?
Yes, you got it.
Yeah. Christers. Yeah. They're more than that, but like then when they have a different perception of religion than you. And that it's really hard to be like, well, why don't you mold it to fit mine? It doesn't have to be exactly like verbatim what you believe. But if it's not on the same level, it won't be. And I think you guys can talk to that a lot more than I can.
And when we talk about a guy leading, we're very on fire right now. And you're not always going to be on fire.
With religion.
And you need someone who is going to be steady in a way of like, when you're down, they might encourage you a little bit more. And so, because it's going to teeter-totter.
Yeah.
Even in friendships it does. I think religiosity goes... What? We start to think of...
word?
Religiosity?
I don't know.
I don't know. We made it a word. But,
all right. Religiosity.
Yeah. So, like, what you're talking about, it's going through the motions. And when you actually love Christ and are in a relationship, that's what you're going to be to other people, and that's how you're going to love the guy you're dating, your friends, eventually your husband. And we were talking about how a lot of times the word submissive or submitting.
Let's read the Bible verse.
So, what better way than to just get right into the word?
Then read it.
And talking a very not a hot topic, controversial topic. In today's society is women being submissive to men and things like that. And so,
we are not pastors. And we
are
not discretion. This is what we have learned. This is our own personal opinion.
Take it or leave it.
And
it's a conversation.
It's a conversation. It's not us lecturing.
Sermon.
Yeah.
We don't know.
This is just maybe we'll provoke some things for you to think about. Like you might, if you don't agree, you don't agree. Like it's okay. But you might just think about it, you know?
References.
Yeah.
Resources.
We've used the references.
Yeah.
Elliot!
We have some good books and
sermons
for you.
Oh my gosh, I need to tag him.
So, this is out of Colossians, and it's rules for Christian households. This is chapter 3, verse 18. It says, "Wives, submit to your husbands as it is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them." And then it goes into children and parent relationships. It's a controversial topic for women to be submissive to men, but the way we kind of view it is
define submissiveness. Define how you are describing submissiveness.
Submissiveness to me is respecting your husband and allowing him to be the head of household and allowing him to lead.
And it's so easy to do that when he's loving you right. So, we're not saying that you should submit to an abusive husband.
No.
And that's what I think submission gets tied with a lot because it's been in culture.
Yeah, and to also submitting does not mean you can't voice your own opinion.
Someone gave this analogy of the men being the head of the household, but the woman's the neck. And she can kind of control from the back. He's the one on the outside that's going to be making the decision.
Because, it starts with husband, love your wife. So if they're not loving you, you can't really be... You
can't submit.
It's a cycle.
Yeah. It's a very even relationship, but our culture has defined submissiveness, and it has all these ties to it that is so negative. That it's really easy to, when you first read this, you're like, ooh. Yeah. You're like, I don't like that. Yeah. I'm not going to submit. When the world is really chaotic, and when your life is very chaotic, and you're going through a really hard time, or shit just gets real, and let's say you lose your job unexpectedly, or you go through a miscarriage, or things are just really hard, things happen. The first thing that you want, and the first thing that you look for when you're scared as a kid is your parents. And the first thing that you're going to look for as an adult is a root, an anchor to push you through it.
Just tell me what to do. I can't make a decision.
Guide me. And obviously you want to have that fallback on Christ, but you want someone that's a leader to Christ to pull you back on track.
Yes.
And be
because it's so much greater than what the world can give you. As women, we are the caretakers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have those emotions. Yeah. That's what we're good at. That's our forte, so don't be shy about it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I hate how it's condemned. But I think what we're trying to get across is, have you ever had a conversation with someone over deciding to go where to eat? And you're like, I really don't know. I'm kind of feeling Asian. I'm kind of feeling Indian. And he's like, I really want a burger, but I think sushi also sounds good. And then you're like, for 30 minutes in the car before you even left, you're like, make a decision. Sure. Yeah, you just need someone to be like, we're going to go eat sushi. Let's go. And start in the car and just go, you know?
It comes back to that cycle of, if you're respecting your husband, he's going to be able to love you well. And if he's loving you well, then you're going to be able to respect him well. And I think you talked to it good earlier, giving the example of you and Luke making the decision to not live together before you get married. And that was more of him making a decision.
You were mad at first.
Yeah. Okay, so basically Luke and I have decided to not live with each other before marriage, and people are like, oh my gosh, you don't know his secrets or his single secret behavior. And it's like, whatever. If you know someone's intentions are pure and like true, there's no being scared. There's no like, I wonder what's gonna happen. It's like, I already know his intentions. I know like he loves me and puts me at the center of his world. So whatever happens, if we disagree on something, I'm not worried about it. Like, we're not gonna like have this eruption and me like leave the state. Like, it's gonna be fine. Like, we'll get through it. And I think that people just, they like to know everything before making a decision, and sometimes you just have to take you have to take a leap of faith. Basically, I was initially upset that I couldn't move in with Luke when my lease was up. I was like, why can't we just live together? We know like we want to be together. We're eventually going to get engaged. Like, why can't we live together? And he's like, this is a value of mine. I'm putting my foot down, and I think these are the reasons behind it. You should also use that to provoke your own thoughts as to why this might also be valuable to you. Mm-hmm. And then he made that decision. And now, looking back, I'm in line with it. I'm like, I'm so happy that I did this.
It sucked in the moment.
It sucked in the moment. But he also backed it up with reasons not tied to religion. He said, you've always wanted to live in a big city by yourself and do your own little thing. And I live in a big city by myself, and I do my own little thing. And I
will never get that back.
I'll never get this time back. So he took initiative, and he's like, I know your heart, and right now we need to live by ourselves because we're going to have a lifetime together. And he made that decision, and as a leader, you see how that is going to be reflected in a marriage. When things
he
get
had
hard,
your best intentions at heart.
Yeah, and like when things get hard in the future, and I want to make a like rash decision, I'm not going to feel like he's deceiving me when he's like, no, I really believe that this is the best path. I'll be like, you know what? You've never deceived me before. Your thoughts are very pure. Your actions and your intentions are good. So I'm okay with being led. Like, sometimes I have to lead Luke. Like, it's okay. Like, it's a balancing. But he will lead the household because he has everyone's intentions in mind. And Luke is the kind of person, and I'm sure, like, he puts his feelings on the back burner. Like, he puts other people first always. And whenever you have that kind of relationship where you know someone else is good, there is no, like, being scared. There is no doubt. It's like,
security.
Yeah, there's security.
And
like, if you date someone that's deceitful and you know they don't have good intentions, then why are you dating them?
Run.
Like, run. Go be with someone that you know their thoughts and their intentions are pure. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a good example of showing how he was able to lead in a dating relationship. That means he'll be able to lead in a marriage, and marriage just amplifies it. If someone has an issue now, that's nothing. That's not going to get better in marriage.
When you say I do.
Yeah, and I mean, it just goes back to our last C is character, and just being able to evaluate someone's character. And like we said, like, beauty is fleeting. Their looks aren't always going to be there. So
of course we want a six pack and nice smile, but you'd rather have a good heart at the end of the day.
I'm looking for character over characteristics. Yeah. Looking for their heart, and are they able to lead? Or do they have a clear mindset? Do they have wisdom? Where does their wisdom come from? Does it come from the Lord versus, oh, they're tall, or, oh, they have a good job, versus
and our
just little
culture
characteristics?
Forces us to, I mean, look at dating apps. Swipe, 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 swipe. You don't know
instant
anything
gratification.
About. Yes. Yes, and it's surface level. Like, until you get to those, like you were saying earlier, those big life happenings, you want someone who doesn't have a pretty face. You want someone who is going to lead you.
Yeah, and if they have a pretty face,
that's just a plus.
That's a plus.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
And the clarity, too. I mean, that's probably the most beneficial thing that I've learned in dating as a Christian. Not only being able to get that clarity from someone, but also give it. Because I personally have made the decision to now wait to have sex until I'm married. And a lot of it has to do with respecting my future husband, but that's something that is not an easy conversation.
Yeah, it's not
to
easy.
do with a guy. It's like, when do you bring it up? Do you bring it up
the first date, or do I bring it up later?
It's such a big deal breaker for people because it's not common that it's like, I don't want to waste their time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a first date conversation, but you don't want to wait till you actually have feelings.
Yeah.
And 3-5 months down the road and then bring it up. So if they kind of have some sort of talk about that, I kind of say it. Because at the end of the day, we're saving both of us, and I'm being clear in my intentions to them and honest.
Yeah.
And they usually respect me for the
best. Yes, someone who's going to be like, oh my gosh, I love that about you. Not someone who's going to try to change you.
Yeah,
and honestly, or try and force them to do it. It could be, guys like to have like strong will and think that, oh, this is a challenge. It's a challenge to either
let me win.
Let me be the one guy that makes her change, or let me try and challenge myself, like, oh, I can do it. But at the end of the day, they're probably just going to get frustrated if that wasn't an intention of their heart.
Yeah, and also being willing to like let it go.
I just think it's not an easy conversation to have, but it needs to be had.
Yeah,
it's just going to end up again like just hurting more people in the end the more time you wait and are unclear. Because if that's something that's important to you, then it's definitely gotten easier having more and more conversations about it.
Right now I'm in a period of singleness, and it's kind of a weird time for me, but it's taught me a ton.
Yeah.
And I'm finally enjoying this because I'm taking the time to study in the private and realize, like, decisions like Dana's doing, what's important to me again. Mm-hmm. And so I think that a lot of times we start to date out of desperation. And because, who doesn't want to date? Who doesn't want to get married? Like,
who doesn't want to have like a cute boyfriend?
Yeah. And so it's like times when I feel discontent, I start to get anxiety and I start to like question my relationship with God. Like, why isn't this all working out? Even when I've been so good about my faith, it's still not rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah.
It's
creeps
hard.
into your
and you're going to have to tell a lot of guys no, and a lot of things are not going to work out, but it's just leading you to one less frog and one more prince. And so I think like finding the enjoyment and fulfillment in the relationship you have with Christ is going to be the only steady thing. And before you get a guy or girl, right, you have to get that, and it's only going to fulfill your soul.
So these are the 4 C's, the 4 main points that we just had the whole discussion about. Is character, someone's character, whether they embody the kind of character that you want to be dating and living with the rest of your life.
Centering yourself around Christ. Yeah. Like the whole relationship yourself.
Yeah. Chemistry. Having chemistry with your partner, and that doesn't mean all like making out all the time. Loving one another. Like more than just like a friend, like a connection. Like you're my husband.
You're my best friend.
Yeah.
You're my baby.
Clarity is huge. Being clear about everyone's intentions about what is going on.
You and them.
Yeah. Respect, and also everything flows. You want it to flow. You don't want to reach a roadblock and be like, why is this unclear? You always want to be clear. And then the last of all is community. We didn't really talk about this, but we'll touch upon it really quick. It's just dating in a community that encourages you to walk in faith and also supports it. Yeah. Supports it. Like, for example, you don't want a friend to look at you and be like, you're waiting till marriage? What's wrong with you? Or you don't want to live with each other until marriage. It's like, yes, I don't, and I'm okay with that. Like,
and if your friends bring up red flags, trust your friends. They
trust your friends and your
you.
family. They know you the best.
Yes.
And if you don't trust your friends have the best intentions for you, you need to reevaluate your friends too. It's all interconnected.
And the guys should want to get to know your friends and want to get to know your family.
And be in your community.
Yes.
You want to date in community.
Despite COVID has been hard.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to make better decisions when you're out with your friends than alone in a apartment.
Yeah. Or you're even just chatting with them on the phone. Just date. Don't be scared of dating in community. And do not isolate yourself from your community just because you're dating. Like, you want everything to just kind of ebb and flow together.
And the right person, it will just work.
It'll just work. Yeah.
Good resources.
Oh, we have lots of
so many.
So I'll link a lot of them below. So if there's any that you want to link, I can link.
Yeah. So as far as sermon series go, that kind of go through singleness, dating, married, engaged, all the steps, intimacy. Ben Stewart,
my favorite.
Yeah, he's
great book.
And then Pastor Michael Todd does a series called Relationship Goals. That was a couple of years ago. He just did Relationship Goals Reloaded, but I think the original one is really good. Yeah. And then
For the Girl is a good podcast. Delight Ministries.
Mere Christianity we're reading right now. That's really good. It's written by C.S. Lewis. He used to be an atheist, and he kind of goes through everything, but he also gets into marriage and intimacy and things like that. And then also the book The Sacred Search by Gary Thomas, and he also has the Sacred Marriage one too. And they're all really good.
So there's a bunch of resources to get you started. If you are already ingrained in your faith, this is just, you're not
the only one.
You're not the only one.
It makes your relationship with Christ so much greater when you actually are reading these things.
Yeah, and it's just interesting. Like, why wouldn't you want to learn more about what you're living?
It's not all about just dating. It's about really figuring out who you are and what you want.
And it's an ongoing
the rest
thing.
of life with.
You're never gonna reach a destination. Like, this is your life. Like, and it's
not the destination.
It is an ongoing thing that honestly keeps you alive, and it keeps you curious, and it keeps you wanting more out of something that can give you more out of Christ.
Subscribe.
Subscribe
like
to
and
our girl.
subscribe. Love Jesus.
If you like this kind of video, let me know because I'm happy to do more. But anyway, we had a really great weekend. They came down from Nashville to visit me, and we just did some brewery hopping and walking. We walked so much. It was so beautiful to just be outside. But we're glad you're here, and if you made it this far, kudos. 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 I said kudos.
We made up a lot of words today.
Wait,
religiosity. Philosophy and religion together. Maybe.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye.